Hello here, and I hope you're all well. And you're joining me today for a little tutorial video because we've got the upcoming Naval Sea Voyage event. And this will be coming on the 21st, I believe. That's the day it all starts, 21st of February at 7 PM GMT. So, and we'll go till the 11th of March. Now, the festive event has a few conditions. First of all, it needs to be completed in a rank 2 vehicle. Now, rank 2 vehicle is anything from this line onwards, pretty simple and easy to explain. So if you don't have any naval vessels yet, it's good to start grinding. Basically what you want to do is just grind out the amount of naval vessels in this tech tree and then get some vessels in rank 2. Next up is the tasks themselves. So first task is to cause 25,000 damage, cumulative damage. Now this is on enemy ships over multiple battles, so it's not a relatively hard task to do. Generally you'll be doing around about 2 to 5,000 damage in a battle, so it will probably take you around about probably about 7 to 10 battles to complete that task. Now, you have to get 10 wins with a 50% activity with a ship or an aircraft, so that means if you do end up matching an aircraft, it doesn't matter. So again, that's not a relatively hard thing to do. Naval wins can be quite hard to come by sometimes. You will have a lot of losses in a row. Next up is capturing 15 zones in a naval battle whilst controlling an aircraft or a naval vessel in multiple battles yet again. So all of these are in multiple battles, so it does make life a little bit easier. So with that one, it's probably a little bit trickier because you're generally going to capture about 1 to 2 zones per match. So if you can do 1 to 2 zones per match, again, it's going to take around about, that 10 battle sort of area, something around that mark. 10 to 12 battles, I would say, in a day. Next up is destroy 5 enemies using torpedoes whilst controlling an aircraft or naval vessel. Now this one is not too hard, but it is not too easy either. You need to know what you're doing with that one. And finally is to sink 5 ships, either cruisers or destroyers in any combination whilst controlling an aircraft or a naval vessel. So that one does become a little bit trickier. If you don't have anything ground out past the sort of into rank 3, so if you don't have any destroyers or cruisers, you might struggle with this task, because with all of these ships down in this line in rank 2, they're not great at fighting cruisers. Probably the only exception to that is the Albatross here and the Scherchen, the Torpedo Schnellboot, just because of the weapon systems on board. The automatic artillery systems are quite useful and they do lob a lot of ammunition, so they can actually cause a bit of damage to an enemy vessel. Same in the Russian tech tree, the PR-206, I believe it's this one here, and this one here. They both have the automatic turrets, so again they can be quite useful in that respect because they have a very fast firing automatic artillery turret. With America you have the Asheville, again, which has a relatively decent turret on board, and with Britain you're in a bit of a tough place because none of the British ships have really that great a turret system. They have got some quick firing guns, some of the quick firing 2-pounders, things like that can be quite useful, but fighting off enemy destroyers or cruisers is going to be a bit of a hard thing to do. Now, you have a couple of days to complete each task, so it's not going to be too bad of a grind, in all honesty, to get these vehicles. You need to get, I think it's 3 of them, 3 marks distinction to get through. So once you get those, you will sort of once you get the tasks done, you'll actually earn the mark of distinction. So then of course, you can get on with it. So it's 3 tasks available of the 5. So you don't need to complete all of them, you only need to complete 3. The ones I'd aim for is causing damage, capturing zones and using torpedoes, because they're honestly the easiest ones to go for. Winning 10 times in a row, you might do that as you're trying to get those other ones, but don't aim for the wins, because wins are pretty hard in naval. So you have 48 hours to complete each task. For the first mark of distinction, you just get a profile picture of a sailor, a Russian sailor. Second, you get a decal, some nose art decal. For 4 marks of distinction though, you'll get the flying boat, the PBM-3 Mariner. And that's the one most people are probably going to want to go for. For 6 and 7 marks of distinction, yet again it's more nose art. And for 9 marks of distinction, yet again more nose art. So they're pretty boring, but 8 marks of distinction gets you a Leningrad cruiser coupon. Now this is an important thing to remember, because it is a coupon. It means you can sell it on the marketplace. So you can sell the destroyer on the marketplace or use it yourself. Now the Leningrad cruiser is actually in game. We do have it here. It is the Moskva, the basically a leader. So if we just look at this, this is your Leningrad class cruiser. Now the Moskva has a little bit less AAA protection than the one that we will be getting premium, I believe. So the premium one will have a bit more anti-aircraft protection. So that's going to help it quite a lot. However, the rest of the armaments and things like that are pretty much the same. It's a relatively good little cruiser. One of the things, it does have some relatively good armoured turrets, which is always handy. I do wish they would finally let us see the actual armour of the ship, because usually with destroyers it's around about 6 to 10 millimeters of armour around the belt. So they do have armour, because this is metal, this is quite thick metal around the boat itself. So again, it would be nice to be able to actually see how much armour we are getting on that, and if Gaijin are actually modelling it correctly. Anyway, that's another rant for another day. So yes, this is the ship you'll get for premium. One thing will be, it will be a premium destroyer, which means you get lots of bonuses. So you could have the premium, like the Project 7 New Stronia. You just get a lot more research points and lines and things like that. So it's a very useful ship to have for grinding purposes. Now, what I want to talk about today is actually the grind itself and the best way to do it. So a tutorial for the grind. Now your best options are going to be going down the Russian line or the German line, in my opinion. The American line is pretty good. If you start getting the 2.7 torpedo boats, up to 3.0 will be fine. Because you're less likely to face destroyers in that respect. You're more likely to be down tiered. If you start getting the 3.7 ships or the 4.0 ships, you are going to be facing destroyers constantly, and it's going to be a lot harder. Although you might be able to capture some points a little bit easier. But the main thing is for firepower, and that's what you want in naval. Now, in Germany, you've got things like the Elite ship, the SF-40, the Flakkenplar, which is just a flak barge. This thing is ridiculously overpowered still. It's still very strong. I'll do customize this. It's still ridiculously strong because it basically has 4 whirlwinds on top of it. So you've got 4 quad 20mm guns on board, and you have a 37mm flak cannon up here as well. So you've got a lot of firepower. The other thing is, this thing is tanky. The armour on the gun turrets are very strong. The armour around the wheelhouse is very strong. It's made of concrete, so it's very strong. It's not very fast, but this thing doesn't need to be. In arcade, it's fast enough. The thing is, you're not going to be able to. You're pretty much going to be able to keep the skies clear with this. You're going to be able to take out planes, which unfortunately isn't a part of the offer for getting the marks of distinction. But the main thing with this is you'll just take out ships like nothing else. Just to show you quickly, just take it for a quick test drive. So here we are for the test drive. Now we're in control of the 20mm guns, so there is a vehicle over there. Now one other thing I wanted to mention, while this gun is very loud, is just if you hit X3, it will make your anti-aircraft focus on that particular target. So it makes it a little bit more accurate. It makes them actually want to chase it. Now what we're going to do here is this PT-20 is, say this was an enemy boat, we would launch our attack, all of the hunting millimeters go off, it's down. It's so quick to kill things, this thing. It's very, very overpowered. Not a lot of people like it because of that. Now we've got a moving ship there. One of the other things I wanted to talk about is actually lead. You have to learn the lead of your guns. Once you can actually get the lead of your guns, you won't have a problem killing enemy ships. But of course you do need to learn that lead, so you just need to keep the cursor a little bit in front of the enemy ship when it's targeted, get the ranging in, and then you'll be able to take it down. It's on fire, so that will be going down very shortly. So that's the flak barge, and that's going to be something that a lot of people are going to be using. Now to counteract the flak barge, generally you want a fast attack ship or to use torpedoes on it. That's the best way to take it out. Anyway, I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself. So with the German 2.7 lineup, you're pretty good in that respect, because you're only going to get up tiered to 3.7, which you will possibly have some destroyers, but not likely. Most likely all destroyers are going to be up tiered slightly. So 2.7 is a bit of a danger zone, but it will work quite well. The other thing with that is you get the Schnellboats as well, which are very useful. Again, they're very fast attack vehicles, and you can even unlock, if you want to, you could unlock the VS-10, unlock some O-boats in that respect, but I would recommend keeping to around about the 2.7 lineup, 2.3. Now you have to use rank 2 vehicles for this, remember, so make sure you've got them at hand. Now with aviation, of course, you can always get some interesting planes out with that. Now with Germany, you've got a lot of dive bombers. Dive bombers can be very useful, especially if you've got a high payload, because you will do a lot of damage to a ship. At 2.7 as well, you've got things like the Condor, which has quite a lot of payload. If you've got the premium BV-238, of course, and you want to go up a bit, you can of course use that. 3.3 will actually give you the HE-116 with a no, wrong one, sorry. I think it's the H6 model. There we go, yeah. So taking out the 2.7 HE-111 will actually give you a Fritz X to use, and that can be very useful because you can gain altitude and drop it on an enemy ship. That is a very useful tool. I'd recommend looking up a tutorial for that. I actually did one a while ago when it came out, and just showing you how to get it working, things like that. So basically what you want to do is play the lower tiers, and you want to play the lower tiers because the matches are going to be faster, you're going to get more kills. Play in arcade as well, do not play in realistic battle. Arcade will give you less research points, but you are going to get more kills and it's going to be faster matches. So we're going to go to a replay now. So here we are in our replay even. Now we've taken out the what is called it's basically the American first sort of American large submarine chaser. Now on the front of this thing you have a 40mm autocannon, which is very, very useful. I'd always recommend using AP clips as well. AP tends to penetrate a lot more and causes a lot more damage and will actually take out the whole section of a ship quicker. Now in arcade, of course, everything is much faster, so the boats are much more nimble than normal. So we're going to come around this corner, and there are a lot of enemy ships around this corner, so we're going to start getting our aim. The BMO is our first target because that's a dangerous ship. We aim for the waterline and manage to sink it quickly. Next up we've got a PT-314. Again we just start firing at it. Now the trouble is here he's front on, which means we can't really do any damage to him. Now using AP it means we will tear through the whole ship and do some proper damage. We're going to switch our attention. Gun is jammed. I'm going to try and turn. I'm going to try and get some shots off from this guy. We managed to catch him, set him on fire. We've caught fire ourselves, and we are dead. We're taken out of the match already, but we have managed to take out at least one enemy ship. Ships like that. So we're dead, but we have managed to take out one enemy ship, and we've had 3 assists, which is not much use to the event, but it is there still. Next up we take out the premium. This is the Thunder Naval, I think it's called, which is basically a premium variant of one of the PC boats. On the back of it, it has a quad 20mm gun. Quad, yeah, I'm trying to think there. And these 20mm can count to a lot of damage. When you've got all of that combined, you start doing a lot of damage to the enemy. 50 cals are very good for causing light damage, 20mm is good for causing sort of heavy damage. As you see there, we've caused an ammunition explosion on the PR1124, and we've caused some damage there. Next up we're going to launch some torpedoes in a moment. We're just going to capture this zone. Now we've just put out some smoke, and we're on fire, so we're just trying to put out the fire. Try and get behind this island a little bit just so we get some cover. We have damaged the enemy ship and caused an ammunition explosion, so that's 3 kills for us. So we're already getting close to our limit of skills for enemy ships. Which is always handy. But of course, you've got to use torpedoes on them to actually get the kills you can, which is one of the hardest parts. But our cumulative damage is stacking up. So if you look at the board now, we've caused it's changed my position again, hasn't it? Let's see. This is really pissing me off when it does this kind of stuff. There we go. We're back in the LK. I had a reserve, sorry about that. And so far we've caused 3,350 damage. So that's all stacking up nice and quickly. So the damage bar is really quite easy to get. Now we're just basically cruising around and just driving like a headless chicken at the moment. Not really looking at caps or anything like that, just looking at kills. So basically you're going to let your AI gunners do a lot of work. And you can actually get your AI gunners to do a lot more work by pressing the X button and the number 2 button, which will actually get your secondary guns firing on that specific target alone. As I said, you can do a similar thing to air targets as well, so your gunners will prioritise, which is X and 3. Now we've launched a torpedo, because I saw a guy coming around. We've got 1 left in reserve. We're on fire, but we're still okay. We managed to cap a zone though, so this will be a second zone capture. We start firing into the smoke. Now a good thing to do in the smoke screen is to circle, because you'll get smoke all around the place. It's a really easy way of getting a bit more smoke. So we're going to come out here, we're going to use our torpedo guys, which is the Q button. Now press X to mark him, press Q to aim. We've aimed, we launch our torpedo, and that's our first torpedo kill. So that's 1 torpedo kill. We only need 4 more now, if we're trying to get the mark of distinction thingies. Unfortunately, we've run into the torpedo ourselves. Torpedoes are much faster in arcade, you have to remember this. They move a lot faster than in realistic battles, so you have to be very careful to actually be on target, because sometimes they go faster than you think they will. Now next up, for wins. The best way to get wins is keeping the air clear. So what I'm going to do now is I'm taking out my Corsair, and what we're going to use the Corsair for is for anti-air work. We're going to keep the sky clear of planes. Now, this is not going to help too much for the damage aspect, but it is going to help for wins. Because one thing people do is they go into a plane and suicide people, or, like this Sunderland, they'll keep up very high and cruise around just dropping bombs on people and doing it that way. So if you're in a plane, you can then use this to your advantage and take out the enemy ships. Now, a really good thing if you want to kill ships with a plane is use rockets. Because rockets are very, very useful because they'll just spread out and they will cause huge amounts of damage. A rocket attack on a PT boat will wipe it out almost. A rocket attack on a destroyer will cause huge amounts of damage, especially if you aim for the front or the back of the ship where the ammunition is stored. So we're just going to cruise around here in the sky now and just take out a few enemy planes. Now, you could try going into the top tiers. I think there will be a few players playing their destroyers and cruisers once this competition actually starts. If you do own a cruiser or a destroyer, definitely take them out because you're going to get those destroyer and cruiser kills relatively quickly. It doesn't take too long to kill a cruiser or a destroyer. So we've got the F-109 here attacking the Sunderland. Quick, easy kill, and that's let the Sunderland stay up a bit higher and continue dropping its bombs. So we're just going to circle around and just keep people safe. Now at a higher altitude you're less likely to be hit by the AAA guns, so again it's a good idea to keep at higher altitudes. It's also going to help sort of spot enemy planes coming in, things like that, because you're going to spot their dots on the horizon and actually attack them. So yeah, if you've got a cruiser or a destroyer, take them out absolutely. And obviously if you do have cruisers, destroyers, you probably don't need too much tutorial because you're used to playing them. But if you are a new player to ships, then this video is designed more for you. Because it can be hard getting used to how Naval works. Basically, it's a bit broken and it's not very good at the moment. What you're doing is you're just shooting your guns at everything, you're just holding down the fire button and just going for that. Now we've got a PBY here, and this is a very dangerous ship. Very dangerous ship. Yeah, it is a ship, of course. And it's a very dangerous aircraft to face. So we do a flyby with that one and set it on fire. And of course we get out of the way of its defensive guns pretty quickly, because those things can be dangerous. But what this guy does is very, very smart. He's actually going to go and land on the sea. This is another thing you can do, is you can take out airboats, but remember they have to be rank 2. That's a thing that's going to cause a lot of problems for people. You set him on fire again, but being in the water, it's probably going to put that fire out pretty much instantly. It's not going to cause too much damage, and we're having to put ourselves in danger from his anti-aircraft fire and also the anti-aircraft fire of enemy ships. Now, as I said, the tricky thing here is there's not many planes past this sort of VR level that have the ability to basically land, be a sea ship at rank 2. Most of them are sort of at rank 1 or below. So not below, most of them are at rank 1, obviously. So with that, it causes a bit of a problem, because what do you do in that respect? Well, you use the torpedoes to your advantage. Now, a really good plane to take out is the TBF Avenger. This is a plane that I adore for this, because A, it's very chunky, and it will basically survive everything, but 2, it carries a very good torpedo. Now, the American torpedoes, the later versions, can be dropped at a speed of, I think it's around about 280 miles per hour. They can be dropped at a high airspeed, which means that you can just dive, drop, and then get back up again. Now, when torpedoing the plane it's easy to kill yourself, but we're going to do a torpedo run in this plane soon. The other thing about the TBF is it has got some juicy guns on the front of it. So taking out something with torpedoes is a very good idea, especially for this event, because you get the enemy kills using the plane. So, with a torpedo run, obviously you don't want to go against things like cruisers and destroyers, because it's pretty much a suicide run, unless you notice a cruiser or destroyer that is completely beaten up and basically not moving. It's not worth doing anything. Now right here I put on my my bravery pants. We've got a BF-110 coming in. We decide to go head on with it because why not? You only live once. Yeah, we're in a TBF of course, so we're just going to survive everything. We've managed to cause some damage to him. That's the main thing. Tail gunner shoots out at him as well. But we've caused some damage. Now we're going to do our attack run with our torpedo. So we're going to go and try and find our target. That guy's just been killed by the TPD. So he's down. So now we're just going to look around. Now when you're going to go to torpedo a ship, you want to keep as low as possible. The lower you are, the less anti-aircraft fire you're going to get, because you're going to have things like islands and buildings behind, in front of you. So it's going to stop anti-aircraft fire coming at you. So it's a really good idea to go between gaps and keep nice and low. Also, people won't spot you as quickly. So right here we've got a motor gunboat. We're going to go down on it. And what we're going to do is we're actually going to go head onto it. So dropping the torpedo here is always tricky. Now, we'll just stop it quickly because actually it should be on board for this. Because what you'll also get is a torpedo marker line. Now in planes, this is actually really handy. Let's show you when you're in this mode, obviously. So what you can see here is this line here is basically your trajectory of your torpedo. The blue, this circle here is where it's going to land. Now you want to make it land just a bit ahead of the boat. So what we're going to do, we'll actually just slow down time a little bit. So we're firing off our guns to take out his, a few gunners. We launch our torpedo. Now as I said, torpedoes are a bit broken at the moment because you can basically launch them at any point. So the torpedo's gone down. It's going to splash in the water. And it will arm. Now we pull up as hard as we can, because what's going to happen is that's going to make a big explosion. We did actually suffer a little bit of damage from that, but we didn't die. That's the main thing. So that's the best way to torpedo, is to try and get in there nice and quick and just cause a bit of damage. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the end of that match. So we ended up with doing a head-on actually before the end of the match. I forgot about that. We ended up doing a head-on with a lag-free. So yes, we did die in fact, but that's alright. So at the end of the match we ended up doing 6,000 damage to enemy ships. So that's, you know, if we have 5 more games like that, we've got our quota done. So that's nice and easy. We've destroyed 2 ships with torpedoes. Awesome. And we've also got a victory. So that's 3 of our things ticked off in one match. We also captured 2 zones, of course. So again, that's another 2 things capped off. So you need to do the zone capping a bit more, but it's quite easy if you sort of know how to do it. Of course, it's not always going to be this easy. It can be a bit harder. We'll just return to base now. So what you're going to want to do in the build up to this event, if you haven't already, is get to your rank 2 ships. So that's the most important thing, is have rank 2 vessels, because you're going to need them. So for America, I recommend the Elcos, the Higgins, these sort of ships here. So these 3 here are your best bet, because they're going to keep it up around the 3.0 mark, so you're less likely to go up against cruisers. The Elco's got very good guns on it, you know, they're very strong. They also have a lot of torpedoes, and that's the pure advantage of America, is you're going to have torpedoes galore. I think all of these boats, other than this one maybe, has torpedoes. Yes, this one is the only one without torpedoes. But again, it's just bristled with guns. So you're going to get a lot of kills in it, you're going to get a lot of things like that, but you're not going to get torpedo kills. You're going to be able to cap zones, you're going to be able to cause damage, and that's the main thing. Because the damage section is one you're going to fill up quite quickly. The torpedo kills, the zone caps are going to be one of the things that take a bit longer. The 10 wins, of course, is going to be one of those things that can take a bit longer as well. If you're looking at a premium around this area, I would recommend the Elco 80. This is actually a really good premium. It's bristling with guns again. You've got the 37mm at the front, you've got 20mm acrylions everywhere, and you have a couple of 50 cals to top it off, but you also come with 4 torpedoes. So again, it's very, very easy to get some kills with this thing. In arcade, it makes it easy. It's nice and easy because again you have the line marker, which helps out a lot, makes your life again a lot easier. And that's by pressing Q, as I said, and that will give you the indicator to the ship's direction. What I'll do quickly is we'll just do a quick test sail just so I can show you that in action. So what we'll do here is, first of all, we've turned off our guns. Now this is a feature with E. So you press the E key and you can see I can change between planes and ships, planes, ships only, or nothing. And this can be useful if you're trying to work out what to shoot at. If you want to shoot at only planes, you can do that. Hit X and 3, and that way all the guns are going to focus on that plane. So you can make sure that your AI are focused on the right thing. Say you wanted them to shoot at this boat, you could hit X, X3, and then of course we do need to turn them to shooting ships, and they'll all focus on this boat now. So all of our gunners that aren't controlled by us are going to focus on that boat. But what we want to take out is this little tiny LS here. Now right now we have the torpedo indicator, so we're going to launch a torpedo. Now the white line is its trajectory, and the green line is where your torpedo is going to go. So if the ship starts turning, sometimes that can cause problems because you might not have the right trajectory. However, if you've got it right and it is going in a straight line, you should hit it. So let's see if we actually get a hit right here. A little bit too far away. Now this boat's going to start turning because we know what it's going to do, because it's a bot basically. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to launch a torpedo there. And we'll see how that goes. Oh, close, almost. Not there. Launch another one. Hopefully this one will actually hit. So we'll see how that goes. The boat's going to start trying to dodge, but not a chance. The torpedo line helped us out there. Now if a ship's stationary, of course, you can launch your torpedo. If it's a destroyer or a cruiser, you're best off launching it towards the front of the ship, because that's going to make sure it hits on the area where the ammunition is stored. Basically the ammunition is stored below the guns, so if you hit there you're guaranteed to kill it almost. There we go, instant kill. So yeah, torpedoes are very useful in that respect, but they are tricky to use. In arcade though, they are a lot easier, thankfully. Now then, so the best way to do it is to get sort of a free boat lineup, because you only need 3 ships. You're only allowed to spawn into 3 ships in arcade, no matter your spawn points. So it's to take out 3 boats and then 2 planes. It's usually a really good way of doing it. Now with aviation, of course, this is where America has a strong point. Unfortunately, things like the PBY are rank 1, so they're not going to get you points. They're not going to help you out. You need to take rank 2 aircraft out. The SBD-3 as well, again, is taken out of this equation. So the TBF is fantastic for this. The A36 is a very good gun ship, so that's very good for taking out planes with guns, things like that. Is a very strong vehicle. The Corsairs, of course, are very useful again, because again they've got quite a good few modifications to them. The US Marine Corps ones there, sorry. They've got a few good modifications for them. You can take out bombs, for instance, which can be very handy to sort of ward off enemy captures. You also get things like, in rank 3, you get things like rockets and stuff like that. Again, I didn't want to customise, I wanted to go details. Rockets and things like that, which again can be very useful because they do cause a lot of damage. So taking out a 3.0 lineup of America, I would very much recommend the TBF for your torpedo kill, and then a Corsair, maybe the F4U-1D. It's a really good plane for that level, or the F5 Wildcat. Although with that one, you do get quite a good range of weapons. You also do get a torpedo to use. So again, that's a very good plane to take out because it's a good fighter, and you get a torpedo that you can work with. That's been installed recently, I don't remember that. I'm just thinking that must have been something that came out before while I was researching this plane, because I don't have it under research yet, so that's interesting. I was researching the rockets. Anyway, so yeah, actually I'll take out the F6, F5 and the TBF, because that way you've got 2 torpedoes available to you from the air, and that's going to help out a lot in taking out planes, and taking out boats and things like that. Will be a real hand. If you're going with cruisers and things like that, then take out the BTD if you've got it, or take out the SB2Cs, things like that. They're very good planes. They've got very good payloads. They're very good torpedo bombers, and they're very strong as well with their gun layout. For Germany, if I can actually get there, the German lineup, I would very much just... where am I going? German lineup, I would recommend taking out the Schnell boats and the flak barge. That's going to be a very good lineup, a very strong lineup. That's going to get you what you need. You've got torpedoes available to you, and you've got a very strong damage dealer there as well. For planes, that's a little bit difficult, because with planes you're going to want to get something that's quite strong. As I said, the HE111H6 can be quite good because you've got a Fritz X on board, but also taking out the Ju-87s, they can be very useful too, because they have a very good payload, although they don't carry torpedoes, of course. You are a bit limited for torpedoes in the German lineups, so you can take out the SM-79s. They do have torpedoes if you actually do have them, but they are pretty useless torpedoes. The German torpedoes are very, very bad. I would not recommend torpedoing with German planes. You're going to have a hard time with it. But you are going to be able to cause a lot of naval damage with them using the big bombs, especially on the Ju-87s, because you have the big 1,000 kilogram bombs on board. They can cause a lot of damage to an enemy ship, especially things like cruisers. For Russia, again, I don't recommend actually taking out anything for torpedoing, because again, the Russian torpedoes are very bad. You've got to have a very slow speed to launch them, which is very frustrating sometimes, because if you're going too fast, the torpedo will just not work, basically. So with the Russian lineup, you're probably better off taking things like the IL-2 and loading it up with as much weaponry as possible, and then sort of a fighter. But the I-16 is probably a good one, just because you've got the rockets on board. So having those rockets is really handy. It gives you a very good payload to attack enemy ships. Also, this thing is an absolute nightmare to face, and it's a very good plane to shoot down the planes with. So an IL-2 and a I-16 would be a very good lineup. For fleet, however, you're going to be struggling with the Russians. The Russians have got a hard time for it, because the Russian rank 2 boats are pretty terrible. They're the armoured gunboats and they're riverboats, and that can be very problematic. One good thing though is the PL1024 is now at 2.7, and it is the second boat to get. Now this thing is actually quite useful because it does have automatic artillery. No, it doesn't. Sorry, I'm thinking of the wrong one. This one does have a PT-76 cannon though, but it does have this twin 30mm gun at the back, which is okay. It's not a bad gun system to use. Unfortunately, all the good Russian boats are rank 1. Some of the PR boats are okay, but the problem is you can't really go frontally with them. You have to shoot to the side because the gun is so big. You're probably better off getting... probably okay with these 3 as a lineup. It's not ideal, but the Russian lineup is never going to be ideal, just because all of these are riverboats. And the thing with a riverboat is they're very narrow, as you can see. They're designed to go through rivers, so they're not very... they've got a very low hull, so they can sort of go on to very sort of low, very shallow waters and things like that. The problem is, though, is the guns are not very good because they're basically tank guns. Now, big cannons are not the best thing to use in ships because they're very hard to hit with. If you do hit, you can cause a lot of damage, but they are very tricky to use. The other problem, of course, is you don't have torpedoes. You're going to have to go to the PR-183 to get torpedoes on a rank 2 boat. So this is pretty much the only boat that's going to have sort of a torpedo launcher at rank 2 that's going to be viable. This boat is very good though. I'd recommend if you do get this boat, get it and then put a load of backups on it, because it will be quite useful. The twin guns on board, the twin 25mm turrets are fantastic. Then you start coming up to the 4.0 ships, which are just, you know, they're rank 4 ships. They are basically the equivalent to a destroyer. The problem is they're not going to be as good. They're a bit weaker. You have problems. Russia is not the best lineup to go with for this task. You also have Britain, of course. Now with Britain, you've got things like the Dark MPG, which has got a good torpedo launching system on it. So again, this ship is very useful. The Dark class as well also has a very big gun on the front. It's a quick firing 40mm Bofors. This thing is absolutely deadly. This boat is fantastic for that. Of course, you don't have any rear guns, so you have to watch out. Basically, you go front on with this boat, but you do have 4 torpedo launchers, so you are going to be able to get some torpedo kills with it. The Fair Miles and things like that, the Fair Mile C is quite good for causing damage. Customization, just because it has a lot of 40mm auto guns on board. Now the problem with this ship is the rear 40mm doesn't fire very quickly, the front one does though, so it's very good for chasing people down, but again you don't have torpedoes. So getting that line up for Britain, you're probably going to want to go down the Fair Mile line and get towards the things like the SGB and the Brave class. This sort of 3 here are going to be a good lineup to go for, just because the Fair Mile D has got a really good gun section on it, and it also carries torpedoes. So you've got that 40mm at the front. Is that 57mm actually? The 57mm, yeah. So the 6-pounder at the front, which is a relatively quick firing gun, very strong. But you also have twin Vickers up here, which aren't very useful. But these are the 50 caliber Vickers at least, so they do actually cause some damage. At the rear here, you have twin 20mm Acrylians, so you've got some good firepower, but again, you do have torpedoes, so it's going to help you with the tasks. And then finally, the SGB, and this thing's going to be sort of your boat for use on just destroying everything. This boat is a monster of a thing. It has guns everywhere, torpedo tubes. It even has armour around the hull, which very little ships do, and it's armoured around the engine compartment, which can really help out because you're less likely to get shot in the engine. You're going to be able to keep going longer. Unfortunately, your ammo is quite easy to hit, but that's a problem on most ships. But the SGB is one of those boats that I would recommend looking at for this task. It's probably going to do quite well, in fact. For aviation, you've got a very good pick, really. You've got the Battle, which is just a fantastic plane. It does come with torpedoes. Unfortunately, they are the crappy British torpedoes, so you can only drop them at 174 miles per hour, which is very frustrating because you have to sort of be at very low altitude, very low speeds to drop them, but you do have that option. The other thing, though, is you just have 20mm guns for days. With this ship, with this plane, you've got 4 20mm guns, and then you've got the Vickers K at the back. Very good plane for use in this respect. You've got things like the Sea Hurricanes, you've got the Spitfires, the Typhoons, even the Sunderland. You've got the Sunderland Mark 5. Yeah, Mark 5. Mark 6. No, Mark 5, sorry. Yeah, Mark 5, sorry, my brain just doesn't work. But this means you've actually got a flying boat you can use and capture points in. 2.0 as well, it's quite useful. The thing is absolutely bristling with guns as well. Basically, it's got enough guns at the front of it to take out most things. You've got 6, I think, 6 Brownings at the front. I'm trying to think of what there are now, it's been a while. So you've got the 7.7mm Brownings, and then you've got the 7.7s, and then at the top we've got the 50 cal. Wait, where are the 50 cals? Where have they gone? There they are. At the sides here you've got the 50 cals, and then at the back you've got the quad 7.7mm Brownings. So you've got a lot of machine guns, which does cause a lot of damage. The other thing about this, of course, is you do have the option of bombs. The bombs are very useful, you can cause a lot of damage, but of course you can land this plane in a cap and cap out. And that's very useful on a map where some of the maps are actually designed for destroyers and cruisers, and you'll get into one of those maps, for instance. Let's just quickly. No, not use a mission. We're doing custom battles. Custom battle. So if we look at some of these maps, for instance, this one here, Norway, you'll get into this sometimes. These points here are where all your torpedo boats are going. Sea is usually quite far away and easy to cap with a seaplane. Things like the Arabian Sea. The sea is so far away, it takes about 5-10 minutes to get there in a boat. So with a seaplane, you can actually cap it out, and that's really useful. But remember, you have to use a rank 2 seaplane, a rank 2 or above, sorry. So it does kind of sort of make it harder, because most seaplanes are rank 1, as I've said. The Catalinas, the Sunderlands, the OS2Us, the Kingfishers, you know, there's not many rank 2 flying boats. There are some higher rank flying boats, but there are not many around. Germany, of course, does have the BV, so that's going to be something we're going to be seeing a lot, I reckon, in this event, just because people will be landing it and using it as a gunship. And then Russia, of course, does have the BE6, but it's a 5.0, so you can only really take that out with cruisers. So it's not much use to you, really. And then you don't have any other flying boats around. There was a premium flying boat, a gift flying boat. I think that was rank 3. I can't remember the name of it for the life of me, but that might be something you will see around. Anyway, I hope you've found this somewhat useful and somewhat informative. If you've got any questions, let me know in the comments below. I wish you the best of luck for this this tournament, this event thing. I wish you get the items that you look for. And let me know in the comments below what you think. Also, I have got Discord now, comments below, join up, things like that. If you liked the video, please subscribe, give it a like, give a comment, share it, whatever, I don't care. Let people know about it, let the world know about it. And I will see you next time anyway. Have a great night. This is me, Carl Screezela, out. Bye-bye.